growth rates. Here the growth rates are, what is the growth rate here? The growth per unit time, it is called as growth rate. So generally here the growth is with the time is going on, here the growth is also increasing. Here the growth rates are of two types, mainly arithmetic growth rate and geometric growth. Here arithmetic growth, first of all arithmetic growth. Here what is arithmetic growth? It is taking place in the here meristematic zone generally. Here the cells, meristematic cells are dividing. For example, it is one meristematic cell, it is undergoing the division. So after undergoing the division, here only here two cells, mitotic division is taking place. For example, here two cells are produced. So it is meristematic cell, and here two cells are produced. So after the production of two cells, the two cells are not able to divide. Only one cell is continuing the division. For example, here it is the meristematic cell. The meristematic cell, it is undergoing the division. Two cells are produced, and the two cells are not able to produce the new cells. Only here one is producing or one is dividing the here two cells. And it is undergoing the differentiation. Here it is differentiated. Out of these two cells, one is becoming as permanent cell. It is permanent cell. It is meristematic cell. And one cell is having the ability to divide, and this cell is becoming as permanent. It is permanent cell. And out of these two cells also, here one cell becomes as permanent cell. Only one cell is able to divide. And here it is dividing into two cells again. Here out of these two cells also, only one is dividing, one is able to produce a new cells having the meristematic activity, and the new cell, one of the new cells, it is undergoing the differentiation. So here one cell is dividing into two cells, and out of the two daughter cells only one is capable to divide, and other cell is differentiated as permanent cell. It is it loses its activity, meristematic activity, becoming as permanent cell. Next here it is dividing into two cells. Out of the two cells, one is becoming as permanent cell. It is also permanent cell. So every time only one cell is added. Suppose if the starting cell number is only 1, here one cell is added. Here starting cell number is 1. One cell is divided into two cells. One becomes as permanent cell, one is having the ability to produce the new cells. Next here one more cell is added. Here one cell is dividing into two cells, one is becoming as permanent cell. Next here one more cell is added. Like this every time only one cell is added to the tissue. If the starting cell number is 1, the cell number is increasing like this, in this manner: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So constantly the cell number is increasing, not rapidly. Here the cell number is increasing very slowly or constantly. So this type of growth is called as arithmetic growth. If the starting cell number is 1, every time only one cell is added. Constant number of cells are added to the tissue. So the growth is taking place very constantly. Here we can represent the arithmetic growth like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like this. And next here this type of arithmetic growth is we can represent in the here one graph form. So if you plot a graph between the time, it is the time, and here height of the plant. So when the cells, meristematic cells are dividing, here the cells are added to the tissue, so the growth is taking place constantly. So the constant growth or the height of the plant or length of the plant. So here if you take on the y axis, time on the x axis, if you plot a graph, here the graph is giving the linear growth. So straight line or linear growth. So it is a linear growth. So this type of growth is linear growth, constant growth. Constant growth, and it is linear growth. So here it is represented in the here equation form, here LT equal to L0 plus RT. And so here it is LT is the length at time t. So after, suppose if we observe one plant height, here every time, every day, here it is increasing here 1 centimeter height. Here that is here for example, here one plant is having the height is it is 2 meters height. The starting or length at time 0. So starting length is here L0 or L0, and after some time, suppose if you observe the after 1 week or after 10 days, here at a certain period of time, here the how much growth occurred. So the LT equal to L0 plus RT. And here every time or every day it is the plant height is increasing up to here 1 centimeter height. So in the growth rate is it is a growth rate. The growth rate is here 1 centimeter per 1 day. So suppose if you observe after 10 days, how much growth occurs? Here the starting, the plant height is here 2 meters. Every day it is increasing or it is showing the growth 1 centimeter height or 1 centimeter growth per day. So after 10 days, how much growth occurs? So if you calculate, so if you observe one plant growth, here one plant is showing the growth here every day 1 centimeter height. So the growth rate is 1 centimeter. Here the growth per unit time, in 1 unit time, that is day, 1 day. In 1 day it is showing the growth 1 centimeter, and the total time here 10 days. And the starting growth or the starting length or height of the plant 2 meters equal to 200 centimeters. So what is the final size or final growth or final length, height of the plant? So if you calculate here, LT means here it is after 10 days, within 10 days how much growth occurs, the total final length or height. So L0 2 meters or 200 centimeters plus R is growth rate, growth per unit time 1 centimeter, and T here 10 days, 10. So after 10 days, here how much growth occurs? The total growth here 200 plus 10, 210 centimeters. So it is the final height of the plant. So after certain time period, length at time, after certain time period, here the total height of the plant is 210 centimeters. Just is one example we can understand. So the arithmetic growth is slowing. It is very slow growth. Constant number of cells are added to the tissue, and the cell number is increasing here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. And if you plot a graph, yeah, this type of linear growth is observed, and it is the equation for the arithmetic growth. So LT, it is the final height of the plant or length of the plant. Next here, it is the starting height or length of the plant, growth rate, time, So with this formula we can identify or we can measure the growth, arithmetic growth. So it is about arithmetic growth. Geometric growth. Here geometric growth is here it is observed in almost all cells, tissues, organs, or in the cultures, in the microbial cultures also. Here the growth is it is not constant always. Here sometimes it is very slow and sometimes it is fast, sometimes it is completely stopped. So based on the here available nutrients, the nutrients are available, here the growth is taking place very fast. But here the nutrients, when the nutrients are not available, the growth becomes very slow or completely stopped. Here if you observe the geometric growth, so first of all what is geometric growth? In the geometric growth, the growth is here it is very fast growth. Here the cell, one cell, here it is dividing, it is meristematic cell, it is dividing into two cells. So two are having the ability to produce new cells, two are having the meristematic activity or dividing capacity. So both are capable to divide. And here these two cells are dividing into 4 cells. It divides into 2 cells and it also divides into 2 cells. So 4 cells. Next here completely all cells are capable to divide. So here completely 8 cells are produced. Eight cells are produced. So one cell is dividing into 2 cells, both are capable to divide, and the both cells are dividing and producing the 4 cells. Next 8 cells. So the cell number is increasing here like this 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. So here when the cell number is, suppose in the microbial cultures, on the medium sufficient, when the sufficient nutrient medium is there, the cell, if only one cell is there, the one cell divides into 2 cells. Next in, for example, in 20 minutes one cell is dividing into two bacterial cells. One bacterium is dividing into 2 bacterium cells within 20 minutes. Next 20 minutes 4 cells are formed. Next 20 minutes 8 cells are produced. So here within 20 minutes here only one cell is added, here 2 cells are added, here 4 cells are added. But if we observe here after 3-4 hours, here the cell number is increasing very rapidly. Here 32, 64, like this 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, 4096. Here, so 8000, about 8000 cells are produced next. So here if you observe within 20 minutes, here only one cell is added. Here within 20 minutes only 2 cells are added. But here also same, within 20 minutes here 2048 cells are added. So that's why here the geometric growth is it is very rapid growth, but the starting stage it is very slow. So the starting stage it is very slow. One cell is added, 2 cells are added like this. So it is lag phase. Lag phase is very slow. Here the lag phase is slow. So the starting cell number is very slow. That's why if you plot a graph between the time and size or weight or the cell number, here it is very slow. But after a certain period, here the cell number is increasing very rapidly. So it is a logarithmic phase or exponential phase. In the exponential phase, the growth is very fast. So within a short period, so very high number of cells are added. Every time or after every division, the cell number is doubling. Here that is very slow in the lag phase, in the starting stage, but after a certain period, so the logarithmic phase. In this phase, the growth is very fast. It is rapid phase, exponential phase. Next, stationary phase. So the cells are not dividing continuously like this. So in one petri dish or in the medium, some bacteria are there, they are dividing and producing the new cells for some time. So they are consuming the food materials. When the food materials are not available or when the food materials are reduced in the surroundings, when the bacteria are not getting the food materials, here the bacterial growth is stopped. After a certain time period, here the bacterial growth is stopped. So it is not continued. So at certain stage, here it is completely stopped. So that is called as a stationary phase. So generally in most of the cells or tissues, organs, here this type of growth is observed. So when we plot a graph here between the time and size, we can get this type of S-shaped curve. So this S-shaped curve is called as sigmoid curve. In the sigmoid curve, here there are three stages are there: lag phase, log phase and a stationary phase. So this type of growth we can represent in the equation form. Here W1 equal to W naught and here E to the power of RT. So it is the final size at certain time period. Here the total size of the plant or organism or tissue. Here it is the initial size or initial weight or initial size, initial length. Next R is the growth rate. So growth rate is so the growth per unit time. Here that is a growth rate at time. Here time for growth, and E is the base of natural logarithms. It is the base of natural logarithms. So here it is a geometric growth. If we compare the arithmetic growth and geometric growth is relatively it is very fast growth, and in this the growth first stage is it is very slow, and next logarithmic phase or exponential phase it is very fast. Here it is not continued continuously. Because when the food materials are available, the logarithmic phase is continued. But when the food materials are not available, so that is leading to the death of the cells or the completely cell division is stopped. So no growth occurs. So here this type of growth is observed in almost all cells and organs and organisms also. So it is about geometric growth. Here two types of growth rates are there: absolute growth rate and relative growth rate. So the absolute growth rate, it is a measurement and comparison of growth per unit time. It is called as absolute growth. Here absolute growth rate. And here if we can understand these terms with the help of one example. Here one flat leaf or one leaf is showing the growth like this. Here it is the initial size, the surface area, it is A at the initial time. It is having the 5 centimeter square surface area, and after certain time period, suppose after 1 day, here it is showing the growth like this. Here it is at certain time period, it is showing the growth 10 centimeter square. So the same here another leaf, B leaf, a second leaf, the surface area is 50 centimeter square. After 1 day, it is showing the growth here 55 centimeter square. So here the growth per unit time, so it is absolute growth is the comparison and measurement of the growth per unit time. So it is here if we absolute growth rate, first leaf absolute growth rate. So it is a final size minus initial size. What is the final size? Your final size minus initial size. So first leaf, A leaf, your final size is 10 centimeter square minus your initial size is 5 centimeter square. So the growth of the here the how much growth occurred or what is the absolute growth rate in A leaf? That is 5 centimeter square only. and in the second leaf, B leaf. So the final size here the 55 centimeter square minus here initial size is 50 centimeter square. Here 55 minus 50, here 5 centimeter square. So in both the leaves, here same absolute growth is observed. So the absolute growth rate is comparison and a measurement of the here measurement and comparison of the growth per unit time. Here in both the leaves, the same growth occurred. Same absolute growth is observed. So the absolute growth rate is same for both the leaves. But if we come to the relative growth rate, here relative growth rate is different. So it is per unit area. Here a relative growth rate is relative growth rate is nothing but it is also measurement of the growth, but on the basis of on the common basis or in the percentage of initial size. So the growth rate in the percentage of initial size. So the relative growth rate, if we calculate for these two leaves, here relative growth rate, we can write like this, growth per unit time by initial size So the relative growth rate is it is nothing but the growth per unit time. It is expressed on a common basis. The common basis is it is initial size in the percentage of initial size. So if we observe these two leaves, here first leaf, the first leaf here the growth per unit time, A leaf, relative growth rate of A leaf, first leaf. So the growth per unit time in one day, how much growth occurred here? 5 centimeters. So 10 minus 5, so 5 centimeters. Initial size is 5 centimeters into 100. So it is showing the 100% relative growth rate. The first leaf is showing here 100% relative growth rate. So the growth is the surface area, it is double. In one day, the surface area it is double. So that's why here the relative growth rate is it is showing the relative growth rate 100%. So growth per unit time, in per unit time means here in one day here the growth occurred. So how much growth occurred here? 10 minus 5, 5 centimeters square. Next the initial size is 5 centimeters square and into 100, that is showing the 100% relative growth rate. And the second leaf is relative growth rate for B leaf. Here growth per unit time in one day, here the unit time is one day. If we think here the final size is 55 centimeters square and initial size is 50. 55 minus 50, it is 5 centimeters square. Next initial size is 50 into 100. Here 5 by 50, it is nothing but 10. 5 tens are 50 and into 100. Here it is 10% only. 5 tens are 50 and 10 tens are 100. So it is 10%. So it is here the first leaf is showing the 100% relative growth rate and second leaf B leaf is showing the only 10% growth rate. Here the growth rate, absolute growth rate is same for both leaves. both leaves are showing the growth. So the growth is here, if we calculate the final size and initial size, here in both leaves are showing the same absolute growth rate, but relative growth rate, here if we come to the relative growth rate, here it is different. So the small leaf, here A leaf is showing the more relative growth rate. The growth is here it is double, the area is double, but here the area is not double, just only 5 centimeter square is here the area is increasing. So here A leaf is showing the more relative growth rate 100%, and B leaf is showing only just 10% of relative growth rate. So both leaves are showing the same absolute growth rate, but here relative growth rate is different for these leaves. So the small leaf is showing the more relative growth rate. So it is about relative growth rates and absolute growth rates.